Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 12. Well, today's video will be all about wasting time, since we have a huge furnace facility to construct, not to mention that recycling plant, which will also need 400 tier 3 construction parts to complete. But fear not, dear viewer, I have an ace up my sleeve. Remember that belt setup I tried to implement at the new smelters? Well, I decided to replace the factory belts with that, since I really wanted to show you how it looks in action. I've been playing around with it between episodes, and I would love to show it off. It's very simple, and isn't really any more space efficient as the old method, but it looks way more dense. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. I think the available workforce is a bit too close to zero, so we should start expanding the town. With the new furnaces, the recycling plant, as well as all the other stuff we will build today, we will need those extra hands to work. According to the numbers given to us, we are just barely underproducing the water for the town. I had other plans for today, so I decided to only build a couple extra distillers, and nothing more. At least we can take care of those with lower tier parts, and not waste any of the tier 3s. Since we're doubling the production, we will also double the brine output, which means we need a second liquid dump. Now, the seawater pumps will not be able to give the full amount required to the distillers, but only barely. We would need 120 units of seawater to make it 100% efficient, and we get a little over 100. I think we will manage until we sort out the proper desalination setup. Only the brine remains. And that's all there's to it. As I've said, this is just a temporary solution, but I didn't want to start any big new projects involving tier 3 construction parts while we have such a massive backlog. Well, I say that now, those new belts I'll build will all use those parts anyway. We might as well upgrade the coal storage too, and give it a name and an alert threshold, so we are kept up to date on things. The rim digging job is past the last big turn, and is now working its way toward the other end. I think we can hook that second connection up, so we can work this last stretch from both ends. Maybe some of the excavators won't have to go all the way around to reach the work site. And here's a thing I've been meaning to do ever since we built the big tanks, but I always forgot about it. Now I remembered. I want to add a small balancer into the mix, so we can grain the ship compartments equally. Right now, each compartment is hooked up to a single tank, and as you can see, they are not filled equally. By adding this balancing setup, we can ensure that no matter which tank has some space left, we can drain all the ship compartments into it, not just the one directly connected to it. The reason why I have to go up to level 1 with the output pipes is because the merging nodes act a bit strange around the liquid module ports. This way, we can avoid using them. And that's it. It took me a little bit of thinking to figure out how to squeeze this into such a small space, and still avoid creating merging nodes in front of the module ports. I guess the fact that they are two-way is what's tripping up those nodes. Later, we will check back to make sure the ship compartments are being drained equally. It's one thing to be confident in your creations, but you should still make sure they actually work. Next, I decided to set up some construction priorities at the new smelters. I want the storages to be completed first, so we can actually start accumulating the resources ahead of the furnaces, and then tell those furnaces to be completed one after another. Instead of delivering the construction parts haphazardly, we will ensure that they get built in order. Let's send the ship out for an exploration mission. Just as we did before, we only sent it to an already explored node, so we can check what's waiting further out before proceeding. I also considered sending one of the tree harvesters over to the other side of the island, so I did just that. We should start clearing the area around the concrete facility, so we can expand it. I also set the old one to be upgraded, along with a couple of the Tier 1 trucks. I also noticed that the excavator working on these dirt hills was stuck. Moving it a bit reset its destination, so it got to work on those limestone hills. Okay, let's check on the cargo ship, and see if its compartments are being drained equally or not. Well, it seems the balancer works as intended. All 4 tanks on board are being emptied out at equal measure. Perfect. We are very close to completing the upgrades on the entire vehicle fleet. Let's keep working on it. Okay, I'll catch the last few stragglers later. Let's get into the rebuilding of the factory belt system. I decided to start with the Tier 3 factories first. I thought it would be best to get that done as soon as possible, so it can benefit from the upgrade. Well, the belts won't work any better than they do now, but we will double the number of factories. I also decided to upgrade the output warehouses. I think I will leave the inputs as Tier 1s, but these can be a bit bigger. Remember how not leaving enough space between the furnaces was what prevented me from building that belt system. That's why we will make sure to leave one tile empty between the factories here. Well, we had 4 factories before. Let's double that. As I've said, the input warehouses will stay as Tier 1. Let's get started on that new belt setup. Again, it's not going to be more efficient. I just like the way it looks better. We build the main belts on level 1, and the first one goes right on top of the factory input ports. Then we leave one tile empty, and place the second line. We only need 2, since this factory array only needs 2 kinds of items to produce its output. And we just do this. It's the same kind of on and off ramps we used for the main bus, but in a smaller scale. Is it more space efficient? No. Is it cheaper? Also no. Is it faster? Hell no. I just think it looks better. Let's give the factories we managed to build a Unity boost, so we can get back to normal a bit faster. And while editing, I thought of another way of belting the goods into the factories. It kind of mixes the old stack design with this one a little bit. We can build the stacked belts right over the input ports, and build the ramps going down from there. Now that will be more space efficient. When I rebuild the Tier 1 factories, I will try to implement that instead. The belting can be incredibly versatile in this game, there are so many options to try. At this point, we don't need the iron smelting to have the boost, it managed to catch up to the main bus belt already. And this is what the belts look like fully saturated. Before, we had some empty space between the belts, now they look more dense, like no space was wasted. We are almost done with this particular array, after which we can move on to the next one. Nice, the output belt is up and running. And we are done. We just managed to double the production capacity of the Tier 3 construction array, and made it look nicer in the process. The weakest link in the construction chain is the Tier 2 factories. Let's upgrade those next. I am waiting for enough construction parts to become available to finish building this warehouse. I don't want to get started on the factories until we have a place to pool the output. This is another 2-ingredient factory array, so we only need 2 input warehouses. Here, I misjudged the position by 2 tiles. We'll fix it in a second. Yep, those ports don't line up correctly. Let's try again with those belts. Now that looks more like what we are going for. We just need to wait a little bit to make enough tier 3 parts to finish building the belts, and it will be finished. Nice, it seems some of the big aggregate storages are finished. We can start bringing over the resources that we will need to keep this place running. Obviously, this will drastically drain our coal reserves, but I think we will manage. And look at that. The two ends of the digging job is almost connected. Well, that's a bit unfortunate. I thought that by copying the tile with the connection node on the bottom belt, we would just get what we copied, instead of that full stack of 3 nodes. I will definitely need to fix that one day, but we don't have the spare parts for that now. And we have a flu going around the settlement. Not good. If we drop below 0 health, we start losing people. We really need to start thinking about healthcare. To speed things up, let's open the tier 2 belt for a bit, so we can quickly upgrade a big batch. We should be able to start building those belts any second. You know what? Let's pause the furnaces for just until we are done at the factories. And this is the crushed iron ore. It will give us a bit more usable iron as a result of the extra processing. Well, the belts are almost done. Just a couple more. And finished. That's 2 factory arrays successfully converted to the new belt setup. No point keeping the furnaces paused, we can continue the construction. Good thing I didn't continue by upgrading the tier 1 factories. That will allow me to try out that new belt setup I came up with in the next episode. And I only notice now that we ran out of research topics. Let's just queue everything up until the next tier of construction, and see what comes next. Wait. The ship engine tech. Maybe that one should be the next one we research. It would be kind of nice to reach nodes on the map faster, as well as give our flagship a bit of extra range. Speaking of the ship, it's still waiting at that node we sent it to. We have a coal mine nearby, so let's liberate that next. This is great. If we need it, we have a coal mine on the map ready to be exploited. While we weren't looking, the area around the concrete facility was completely clear-cut, so we might as well build that extension I've been teasing. I think a simple doubling should do it at this moment. This is why I love these expandable array setups. We can just plop down a couple extra factories, and hook up the I/O ports to the existing lines, and it's all done. Only in this case, it's a tiny bit more involved, since we need to add a second rotary kiln, just to keep up with the cement requirements. And that's it. We just doubled the output of this facility. Okay, we got another batch of refugees. The next one would put us over the housing limit, so I think I will turn the beacon off. And checking on the food consumption in town, we are still doing okay. Our farms can do about 9 units per minute, and we have 4 of them for each foods we grow. We are still not reaching the 36 unit per minute threshold. We are super close to finishing all vehicle upgrades. Only a single excavator, and 4 trucks are left on the whole island. Let's do them right now. After this, we should be fully done with this process. And it's always nice to see trucks milling around at the dumping sites. The fact that they aren't running around, and have time to just sit idle shows that our logistics system has some headroom. Anyways, our first advanced furnace is done, so we gave it the recipes it needed to operate. The facility is officially online, even if not running at full capacity yet. Once I'm satisfied with it, I will delete the old one. Let's upgrade the iron mine storage next. Just to have a bit of an extra buffer. Wait a second, why are both tree harvesters here? Oh right. I upgraded the old one, so it went back to the depot, and these trees are closer to it. I would prefer if it was working at the other end though, so I sent it back up there. Can't wait to get the upgraded engine. That will make exploration not just faster, but it will let us go a bit further out. Not as far as we could with the fuel tank upgrade, but still gives us a range boost. How about we do another factory array? I was thinking, maybe the electronics. I see no reason to build more factories, so let's just stick to the 4 we had before. Now we just add in the merging nodes at the outlet ports, and it's done. Well, we should still rebuild the output warehouse, just to line up with the others. Okay, let's hook it back up to the main bus, and our work is done. And look, the ship engine tech is finished. We can start upgrading, and once that's done, we can go out again, but much faster than we did before. Finally, the vehicle upgrades are all done. Every single vehicle we own is now Tier 2. That is a huge boost to our logistics on the island. And the coal mine's outer rim is almost done. But, it is not quite ready to receive the retaining walls yet. I would like to ensure we mine as much coal as physically possible, so I will now go around and designate a couple extra tiles to be dug out. We need that extra space to place the walls. And the ship engine upgrade is complete. Let's go out there and stir up some trouble. I forgot to keep track of it on the map, but you can follow the progress on that blue bar on the top of the screen. It's filling up super fast, given that I went to a node we couldn't reach without the upgrade. The exploration phase is still the same speed, but the travel times are cut down considerably. Uh-oh. These pirates are tougher than usual. I really shouldn't have barged in without checking with the radar first. We are very lucky that we can deal with these guys, but just barely. Anyways, we managed to find some advanced electrical stuff, which unlocked a potential research opportunity for us. That damage will require some attention, that's for sure. Nice, we are almost done connecting the two ends of the outer rim. We will need to dig those extra tiles on this side too, so it's not quite finished, but we are well on our way. With the last furnace close to completion, we can unpause the recycling plant now. It will take a while to get that done too, but we will be able to save on some of the materials in the long run if it's up and running. And in the last episode, I did wonder if by dumping dirt into the sea near the iron disturbed the deposit. I am pretty sure it did. I won't add any more to the wall now, but it's good to know. Or, now that I think about it, maybe it's not really disturbing it, maybe the game simply doesn't show the parts of the deposit that are underwater. That would explain why we keep seeing more and more added along the shoreline. We extend the land, which reveals more of the iron. Anyways, time to start placing some of the retaining walls. Technically, we could use a console command to allow placing them inside tiles that have mining or dumping designations, but I don't really do that anymore. I find it's easier to create neatly arranged walls if we adhere to the intended limitations. This is as far as I will take it for now. We still have some dumping to do before it's all finished, so let's not make the lives of our trucks any harder than necessary. And I just noticed that we have another disease running around in the city. It is starting to become a big problem, and we are not quite ready for a hospital yet. Just to tide us over in the meantime, I decided to rebuild the captain's office, where we can enact a health boosting edict, which will keep our health number above 0, which is all we really need to not lose any people. But that will have to wait until the next episode, I'm afraid. And that pretty much decided what we will do next. Healthcare is a bit of a complicated matter in this game. We need 2 items to make the Tier 1 medical supplies, sanitizers, and equipment. For both of those, we will need to make plastics, which we haven't done in this playthrough. And for sanitizers, we will need to make ethanol, which we can get out of creating corn mush, which we can then ferment in specialized buildings. Which means we will need to expand our farming operation. Technically, we could do everything in one place, which is how I usually dealt with that chain, but this time, I might separate the different processes out a bit. Apart from that, I am hoping that we can get started on the retaining walls in the coal mine in the next episode, which would be a good way to put a cap on that long job we've been doing for a couple episodes now. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.